Now. Okay, Ron, well, welcome to our call. We're calling this, and Maria and I have been collaborating, trying to figure out how we can share more knowledge. We're calling this series of talks Kaizen Talks, but it's also about knowledge, and we've got it labeled on the PowerPoint here as Nikken Knowledge Talks. And it's really about life in balance and wellness. And we appreciate you joining us today, and for everybody that's listening to this recorded message. Ron D'Amico is a Nikken consultant that has experienced the benefits of the Nikken products in some of his life situation, and I'll let him tell that here in a little bit. And Ron, how long have you been with Nikken now as a business?
Just shy of 9 years.
Yeah, and so we want to take that 9 years of experience and kind of encapsulate that and share that, Ron, in this little recording that we're making, and really kind of tailor it towards how your experience with your cancer and Bell's palsy, and how we can teach others to share the value of the Nikken products as a foundation to their wellness, so they can mitigate and set their bodies right to make it hard for cancer and as a prevention. And so in doing that, I'd like to just start out first by a disclaimer that Nikken does not make medical claims or guarantees. Yet, however, millions of people have shared their personal experiences, and today we'll be hearing just one from Mr. Ron D'Amico. So we, as Nikken consultants, we're all about a life in balance, the 5 pillars of health. We talk about the healthy body, the healthy mind, healthy family, healthy society, and healthy finances. These are the principles in which we try to live our lives, and we try to promote for those around us. And Ron, we think that you're an exemplary example of how you have done this and brought vitality back to you and your family. And we really want to get into that here today. So first things first, some stats, current stats of the healthcare in the United States. In 1985, it was a $250 billion industry. And then in 2013, it's a $2.8 trillion industry. It's pretty significant. That averages out across the United States just a little bit more than $9,000 per person per year. That's a lot of people, that's a lot of sickness, and that ends up being a lot of money going into the wellness industry. People are trying to get and fight and stay away from sickness and or recover from sickness. And currently in the U.S., as you can see here, 1 out of 2 adults have at least one chronic illness. That's pretty significant. That's 50% have some type of chronic illness. By age of 65, 80% of us have at least one or more chronic illnesses. Yeah, and more than 75% of healthcare costs are due to chronic conditions. Chronic, that means persistent over time. That's $2.1 trillion. That's pretty significant. And that's these are numbers from the CDC. And just for reference, I took these initial slides we got from Dr. Gary Linder, and he loaned these slides to us. So we're just kind of spreading the message of stuff that he's put together here. Now these I took from the internet, and here's cancer information graphic, and it starts with a change in a cell. You can get very scientific, and we're not going to do that today. But as you can see here, who can get it? Well, we already talked about 50% of Americans are getting some type of chronic illness. But here we're talking about people from all walks of life. And as you can see, the cost of it is $124.5 billion in 2010. It's expected to be $158 billion worth of medicine and research and practitioners that are involved in just cancer in 2020. And ladies and gentlemen, that's not too far from today. It's 2015. So in 5 years from now, $158 billion will be spent on cancer. There's a little bit of note here about prevention, to do what you can do. It starts with change in you. And Ron's going to talk about his change here in a minute. And it's pretty significant. You can talk about your diet. We talk about physical activity and, your community action. And Ron's got some really good stories that he's going to talk about here. So real quick, cancer is a global killer. It's the #2 killer in America. The #2, with the first one being heart disease. And this disease, cancer, accounts for 7.4 million deaths worldwide. There's lung cancer, stomach cancer, colorectal, liver, and breast cancer. And if you just take a look at that, there's a chart here on our slides showing where that's at and how that affects men and women. And 1 out of 3 people will develop cancer during their lifetimes. 1 out of 9 people have a risk of developing cancer, again, if they survive the first time. And then 2 in 9 people have an increased risk of developing a second primary cancer for the second time. 70% of all cancer deaths occur in low and medium income countries. There you go, people. So more than 30% of cancer could be prevented, mainly by not smoking tobacco, having healthy diet, being physically active, and preventing infections that may cause cancer. 1/3 of cancer could be cured if detected early and treated adequately. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, not from a cure perspective, but from how we can fight against it, make your body strong, make it hard for cancer. So enough with the statistics. There's more charts here showing, how rampant it is. One key thing here, in the United States, cancer has an overall death rate of 59%. Those are stats from 2011. Pretty significant, and that's ranging from all different types of cancer that we just mentioned. Okay, so with that, one last note here. They say that cancer is 5 to 10% genetic, coming from the genes that you've inherited from your family. 90 to 95% of it is your environment that you live in daily, that you live in at work, that you live in the rest of your life. And out of that environment, your diet is 30 to 35%. Your diet is 30 to 35% of that 90% of your environment. So you have a choice. We, as Americans, have a choice. And we want to talk about some of those choices. So, Ron, if you would you please, sir, give us some background on before you met Nikken and some of your life situation in your environment, if you would.
Well, that was a lot of information that's important for all of us to know. I came into Nikken kind of the back doorway, I guess you could say. My wife was taking Spanish lessons from a Korean lady that had a husband who was a doctor, and they were both doing the Nikken business. And when they found out that I had contracted Bell's palsy, they invited me to their home to talk to the doctor about what I could do to, get rid of the problem. And so, of course, I agreed to go there. And when I went over, I didn't expect what I, was confronted with. I expected a doctor with medicine, a pill, something different than the hospital that I had been going to. And when he told me he had nothing to give me in the sense of a pill or some medicine of some sort to get rid of my Bell's palsy, which was already 1 day old, I looked hideous. I was just the most hideous look that you could see. And one side of my face was completely collapsed, and it was a scare, But he talked to me about drinking water and sitting on a magnetic cushion, and he put me, insoles in my shoes, and just gave me basically the Nikken introduction. I was there for quite a while, and when I came home, we had decided to buy the products because I was so ill that I thought, well, this would be a last chance, because it wasn't just my Bell's palsy. It was I was suffering from chronic headaches that were just days long and just endless, and had been going on for years. No sleep. I had stomach issues. I had all kinds of arthritis everywhere in my body, knees, hands, my shoulder, back. I mean, I was, basically trying to leave the earth, as I would say. And I had psoriasis all over in my eyes, hair, my knees and elbows. And and this is just some of them. And in fact, the doctor's wife later told me when I joined Nikken and got well, she called me her poster child. She says, if somebody calls me and has a problem, I just say, call Ron, he had that. And I used to think, wow, But when I came over to see them that night, I already had been told by my doctors there was nothing more they could do for me. I'd gone through the whole medical program of all the issues that I had, and it didn't look very good. And there were days when I didn't know if I'd get through the day or night. So anyway, when I got introduced to Nikken, I was an automotive repair shop owner for 43 years, and I knew the automotive industry, but I knew nothing about health. And of course, at work, I ate when I could, and when I did, I microwaved everything. And I didn't drink water. I drank Cokes or whatever was handy. And I was breathing air that had fiberglass in it, asbestos, chemical sprays, gasoline, diesel. I mean, I was confronted with just everything imaginable. And people were dying around me, my friends, other business owners, and, of course, it concerned me, but I didn't realize what the culprit was. And so for Nikken to help me get well was like a miracle if it could happen. And within 7 days of joining Nikken, my Bell's palsy was gone. And I have to tell you, I got the calendar on and said it couldn't be 5 to 7 days. It had to be, Anyhow, when my doctor called to talk to me about it, I told him it was already gone. And of course, he said, well, am I calling the right place? And I said, yes, I had Bell's palsy. It's gone. And I started to tell him what it was that helped me. And he said, well, that's fine. I just want to make sure you're okay. And he hung up. So that was my first experience with a doctor that basically didn't have time to hear what caused me to get well. In 8.5 months, I was off all my medicines, which were considerable amount, and over the counter, and I was basically healthy again to the point where I could walk comfortable and I could sleep, and all due to my wellness home, my nutrition I was taking, and a whole different philosophy about how my life was going to be. And at that point, my wife and I sat down and we discussed joining Nikken and doing this as a life occupation, as I would say. And it has been quite a trip. I've seen many, many miracles, and I'm very thrilled to have found Nikken. It saved my life. What else?
So, well, Ron, that's very interesting. So you answered the question that we're looking at. How long did you think it took for some of the products to take effect? And
well, some of the situation. I mean, some of them were instantaneous. I mean, it just happened right away. It was one of those things where just my sleep alone. At the third day, I was starting to sleep, and that was the first time in like 7 or 8 years. And that was an accomplishment to get up in the morning, even though you only got, instead of 3, you got 4. That 4 hours was different, and you just got out of bed different. You got out feeling rested, And of course, now I sleep 8 and 9 hours every day, and I look forward to going to bed. Before it was a terrible thing, knowing that I'd be up all night, and not sleeping. But I didn't mention in that whole scenario of diseases and sicknesses, I had cancer of the right breast, and I elected not to do the chemo and radiation. I went with food and getting my body alkaline with water, and I wore magnets over across my breast, and I I did everything it was going to take to kill the cancer without having it surgically done or radiation or, and so it was something that, when you talk about it and it's gone, it's okay. But when you're talking about it and it's not gone, it's sort of like, am I doing the right thing? Because you only get one chance at it. And like you said, the death rate from cancer is almost 60%. And it's more than that even, but they don't tell you some other things that are missing in that. But I just knew that I was going to be okay. And I just knew that if I went at this the way I was going at everything else with the Nikken products, and I did introduce other things into that. That means you have to have a foundation to have a good home. You can't build the roof first and the walls. You have to have a foundation. And what makes Nikken so unique is that it's the foundation of health. If you start there, then everything else builds. And it's just, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Ron, I was just going to ask, so, that foundation and everything you're talking about here, one of the questions we wanted to ask was, what are the daily and monthly methods of operation or practices that a person who's trying to prevent cancer or someone who maybe is diagnosed with it, what would be the daily and monthly, methods of operation or things that they should do on a daily basis, including with the Nikken products? What would you recommend that they do?
Well, first of all, have the wellness home. I mean, that's the most essential thing there is. Our nutritionals, most people don't know that nutritionals, most of them out there are not very good. We happen to be in the high percentage of good products, and probably the 10 or 8% top products in the world. And when you take our nutritionals, you'll know it. I mean, it's quite dramatic on how quickly it responds. And so the first thing I would say that you're going to do daily is you should always get up with the water first to start your day, and the jade green signs. This is very, very important to start your day this way. And my wife always says, you should be a person that wherever you go, you always have your Nikken sports bottle with you, and you carry it wherever you go, and always wear your insoles and your magnet products. And she always would, make sure that I was wearing everything. And I wore a MagFlex over the top of my breast for the cancer. Now, what most people don't know, and I don't mean to get ahead of your program here, but the reason I wore the magnet on my breast was that cancer cannot live without iron in it. And of course, magnets pull iron from the body, pulled out from the cancer. So that was one of the reasons why I was doing that, because a number of gentlemen, other fields, have used very powerful magnets over the top of people's chests to help alleviate the iron in cancer. So that was one of the reasons why I wore the magnets over my chest. And there were other things such as lactoferrin gold. I don't mean to jump ahead of things here, but lactoferrin gold is another product that Nikken makes that attracts iron from the body. And without iron, cancer doesn't have a long life. Also, the water, having the water bottle with you all the time and being at home, of course, with your water system. Alkaline bodies don't give the cancer a life. And if you can get off the sugar and the bad diet, it's just a win-win. And that's what I did. I just got off of everything in the way of sugars and all products that were fried and had any bad chemicals in it. I became a person who read every label on every product that I bought. And there were words that I started learning about that were cancer causing, such as a word as carrageenan. Never heard of it in my life. And I found out later that it's used in a lot of products that thicken it, such as almond milk and coconut milks, ice creams, yogurts. I mean, it's scary what's in your foods, and you don't know. But as you become more and more involved with Nikken, your life changes. And one thing that changed for me is I came into Nikken, an automotive repair gentleman. I fixed cars, and I did that for many years. And when I got into Nikken, it opened up doorways of learning about health that has not only changed my life, my family's life, but hundreds and hundreds of our friends. And today I look at things and I can treat it the same as I did my automotive world. I'm good at it. I've learned about it. And I've gone to the people that talk about what we need to do to keep healthy. I should take a breath here. you don't want to you don't want to get me started.
Okay. Well, hey, Ron, very good, and we appreciate that. You mentioned the insoles, but you also went to bed every night on a sleep system, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's probably another daily method of operation, Maria. And, you know, or maybe if it's not, you get on one and you share the sleep system with somebody. I don't know how that would happen, but so I think that's another key aspect as well. So, Ron, while you're taking a quick little break there, I'm going to cover some other things on these slides here. We're talking about Ron's response, what he did. I want to show you on these slides here what the government's response is and what other industries are doing. So these are designated cancer centers around the country. They're supported efforts at universities and cancer research centers. You can see how vast they are, and they're primarily on the Northeast and the Central East. But just look at that. And this is a national response by the government, cancer.gov. This is where they're doing research. Think of all the dollars, all the people, and all the reports, and years of man hours after man hours going into the research on how to solve cancer. So the government is trying to respond. This is their response. You just heard Ron's response, all to deal with this little cell that's down here on the left, and that's the cancer cell. So there's some stats and some information for you at cancer.gov for you to go check out for yourself. The next slide I'd like to show, here's more cancer statistics from 2004 to 2008 by female type. Here's the most affected states. This is quite alarming. Kentucky, Delaware, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Maine, Connecticut, New York. How many of you know people living in these areas? These are the most highly affected, highly percentage of cancer patients in the nation. And how many of you know people that live in that area that probably need some type of individual response to either prevent or mitigate, set their bodies right so they can respond to the cancer like Ron has done himself. Just a little note that, you know, here are the locations of future oil well and fracking sites layered on top of the current population. And this information right here is as of 2014. And this is where the oil companies in the U.S. are starting to increase production via fracking. And then from there, we're getting some pretty large numbers of cancer. And so this is just a little bit of a foresight and something for people to think about. The next slide we want to talk about, there is a very descriptive picture here of the different types of cancers. And this slide isn't really meant for you to read it, but just for you to glance at it and look at it. And it's showing the types and where it affects you in the body. And I just want to say that what Ron was talking about, he was treating, not treating, but he was setting his body up, his whole body, to deal with everything that he was being presented with. And this is what we all preach as Nikken consultants. You got to set the body up in homeostasis so it can heal itself. And then, so with that, Ron, I'd like to ask you a question. How did these past 9 years, how many people have you met, do you know, and have you helped with the Nikken products and helped their bodies respond to cancer, chemotherapy, or radiation?
Well, you know, my wife was asking me that question just recently. There's no way how many hundreds and hundreds of people we've touched. I mean, there are special people that we've talked to that are dear friends that we got involved. I had a gentleman, his name is Ray, and he called me up with prostate cancer. And he said to me, what do I do? In fact, it was his wife that called me, and she was using some of our products, and I just gave her what I told her would probably help get rid of it, and she put him on that program of Nikken products, and 6 months later she called me and told me it was gone. So, it's you can kill cancer if you just go at it right. And so I know that there's something, this is something that really hit me one night. We were at a program, and we had 50, 60 people there, and I asked for some testimonials from people in the group, to talk about their miracles of life, as I would say. And this gentleman got up and he started talking, and I turned to my wife and I said, "Wow, what happened there? Where did that come from?" And after the meeting was over, I walked up to him and I said, I'm kind of confused. I know you had this health issue, and I know I put you on all the products, but I never heard from you. So I didn't know whether you had had success or not success. And I left some messages for you. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, why would I need to call you? Why would you have me using something that didn't work?" And he says, "It worked fabulous." And he says, and I'm helping other people.
Wow.
And I've heard that so many times that after a while I have to pry it out. I call up and say, "Well, tell me exactly how things changed." And I always tell them before I start them on Nikken, I always say, write down everything that's bothering you, everything that's hurting you, anything you can think about it, from the head to the feet. Write it all down. How you sleep, how you don't sleep, and when you drive, if your leg bothers you, or anything that you can think of, and then put it all down on paper. And also at that time, write down from 0 to 10 where your pain is. And then in a month, let's review it, and then tell me what's happening. Because people, when they're sick, that's all they think about. But when they're well, they don't think about it. Who wants to think about well? It's no reason to. And
Right.
When I get them to think about this, then I get things like, "Well, I checked off a few, Ron. I got 5 more going," and it's a sort of a bumper point for them to look at, so that they can determine where they're going and how they're going. And you'd be surprised on how many people get well from Nikken and never think much about it. They just think, well, they wouldn't have sold it to me if it didn't work,
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Wow.
Ron, what are, on that note, as we've seen people overcome some serious, they're working on some serious diseases and other chronic illnesses that they're working to overcome. What are, as you've seen yourself and others overcome some of these things, on top?
Oh, good question. The toughest people are our families. When I first joined Nikken, I called all my families, and they just said, they put the little hex up. "Oh no, don't tell me. I don't care about that stuff, And I said, it works. And I was so excited, and I was just going crazy. And I guess I scared them more than anything, because of the fact that I've gotten well. I kept thinking, my God, I've gotten well. This is like a blessing. And so, funny thing happened. Connie's sister, who's older than her, she's about 88. She had gotten a major heart attack, and then another one, died on the operating table, and they were able to bring her back. And they gave her all the medicines, a whole regimen of medicines. And because of the medicines and the inhalers she used, she got emphysema. Okay? She earned that. So her husband died about 3 years ago, and after he died, she came up to me, and this hit me right between the heart. She said, "I have to tell you that I made a mistake 5 years ago when you came up to us and told us about Nikken." She said, "I should have joined. I made a mistake, and I wanted to let you know that." Well, guys, it made me cry. It just made me cry, because I know it works, but not everyone knows that and doesn't understand it. But this wonderful lady told me that, and it just made everything I was doing alive. So I said to her, "Well, we'll talk. So after the burial was all over, we talked, and I said to her, let's get your emphysema under control. So the first thing I did, I couldn't put her on magnets because she wears a pacemaker. So what I did was I got her started on the air machine and the water and vital balance. And here's a woman that walked around with little battery or little air tanks on her back, slept with them at night. Within 2 weeks, she was no longer using oxygen. 2 weeks. That was 2.5, almost 3 years ago. I then, a little at a time, I introduced more and more to her because, of course, I had the family and she's taken 1 million pills, but she got so well that she started calling me up and saying, well, I'm down to my last 20 pills. Would you make sure I have another bottle of that? I mean, she takes everything religiously because she could hardly walk. She could hardly drive. Now she walks, she drives, she does everything on her own. And she's breathing comfortably again. Her emphysema is not gone, but her lungs cleaned up so much that she breathes comfortably now. So that's just one of hundreds of stories I have. I mean, you could just go on hour after hour telling all these stories of people that had miracles in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, Ron, what are the top 3 lasting effects of your use of the Nikken products? I mean, initially you started out using them for a specific, a specific purpose, but what are the 3, top lasting effects of your use of the Nikken products that you've seen in your life?
Well, if you were going to ask me what the 3 worst things were when I joined Nikken, it was my headaches, which I used to beg my wife to kill me. They were so bad, I just couldn't live like that. I mean, I'd sit there for 2 days with a major headache that was so bad, I just didn't know whether to live or die. My joints, I couldn't walk. My knees were gone. My right ankle was gone. My left shoulder, I couldn't lift it past my chin. My neck was so far gone from years and years of using the telephone on my shoulder and holding it with my neck. And I mean, I was just destroyed. And that's gone. My headaches are gone. And then, of course, the cancer. I mean, who wouldn't want to know that cancer's gone, Yeah. So I would say those are my 3 most favorite. And then there's many more, of course.
Yeah. Okay. And what would be your advice to people who want to prevent cancer or, other ailments, but mainly we're focusing on cancer today? What would be your advice to people to do to prevent that in their life? Well,
okay. I want to add one more thing to that last one.
Okay.
When you can't sleep, life it's awful. It's long. And just knowing when I go down the hallway to go to my bedroom that I'm going to sleep all night, I look forward to it. Prior to that, before I got my Nikken bed, it was drudgery because I knew I might sleep 3 hours, maybe plus or minus, and that was it. And I'd get out of bed exhausted, and yet, So that would be my 4th. If I wanted to add a 4th, is that wonderful sleep system. I can't imagine not having that. All right. And getting back to your question now, hit me on the highlights that again.
So just you've kind of touched on a lot of it already, but what would be your advice to people who want to prevent cancer in their life and the lives of their loved ones? What would you advise them to do? What would be your recommendations?
Well, living healthy is important. There's no question about that. But what I want people to know is there are some things in the environment you can't do anything about. But if your body is in good condition, you can fight those things off. It's when your immune systems are so weak that you're, subject to catching the flu and, viruses and whatever's out there. But right now, I've got a whole article that I've written on cancer, on what I call poor man's cancer treatment, things that you can do to help keep cancer out of your life. Well, first of all, is alkaline water. I mean, so come on, that's a no-brainer. And then the shower filter. If you won't drink it, why would you shower in it? And the thing about the water today, it's no longer chlorine water, it's chloramine. It's a chemical of ammonia and chlorine mixed together. So our shower filters are needed even more today than they were, say, 3 years ago. And then we've got a product called Lactoferrin Gold. My gosh, what a miracle product that is. So all of our nutritional products are wonderful products. Siaga, look at the Siaga that we have. It's got an ORAC value that exceeds everyone. It's at 16,490, which is just amazing. If you do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 shots of that a day, it just kills all that inflammation in the body. It just does. And there's so many other things that you can do to keep cancer out of your body. Juicing, colloidal silver, garlic, of course, prayer and meditation is good. Deep breathing, vitamin D in the sun, oil pulling, asparagus, Montana yew plant, baking soda. I mean, I can go on and on and on. All the things that will keep you fit and keep cancer having a bad time trying to live in your body.
Yeah. Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So while you're talking about this, Ron, we're showing a slide here that's got some of those products on there and how they can apply them. One question I got, and we had a discussion the other day, is what about somebody who's already in treatment for cancer and they're having to do chemotherapy and the radiation? Is there a specific product that might really set them straight or, help their body in those environments?
Well, you made some comments about how many people die from cancer. It's close to 60%. But what most people don't ask their doctor is when they go in for chemo and radiation, especially chemo, what is the survival rate on chemo? And the survival rate is 8%. That's 5 years in 1 day. That's all. 8%. That's terrible odds. So if you decide to go with the medical industry, which is chemical, the odds are pretty strong that you're going to have a bad time. If you go with the food world, that means the homeopathic products, our wonderful nutrition, our water, our sleep system, you've got a better chance of overcoming that cancer than you do the way the general medical industry does now. That doesn't mean you can't use some of it. The surgery parts and sometimes the radiation. I mean, sometimes you just have to use some of the things they have, depending on how grave your condition is. Such as if you're 4th stage cancer, you've got some issues. If you're 1st or 2nd stage, well, it's not too bad. I was 3rd stage breast cancer, and caught me right between the eyes. And so I can tell you this, that if you go at it right, you can kill cancer. It's just the way it is. And I've done it, and many of my friends have done it. And they've done it just with food and good living, good water. It's there. Chemo and radiation, I mean, when you go into your doctor, I mean, what are you going to do? The only program they have today is chemo and radiation. So you don't have a whole lot of choice. And when you decide not to do it, believe me, the medical industry doesn't appreciate it. My doctor was furious with me. She just said, you're making the wrong decision. I mean, right in front of my wife and I. And I said, well, that's what I've decided. I don't want to lose my hair. And they were going to remove my lymph nodes. I mean, it just was death to me as far as I was concerned. And so I didn't go the way they wanted me to go. And guys, I got to tell you something. It's a lonely decision because it's yours and you got to live with it. And if it's the wrong decision, then it's over. But as it turned out, it wasn't. And now that I've gotten involved with other people doing the same thing, I find now that it is something that's a lot safer to do than what the medical industry is doing now. But again, that's a decision that each person has to make. And it's their decision and only theirs.
Right. So, hey, Ron, based on that, that first Nikken Wellness Home that your wife got you got together, what would you say the value of that is to you today?
Well, I can tell you this. if Nikken went out of business tomorrow, I probably get basically hysterical. I just can't imagine them not around. I would then get on the phone and order everything I can order, because I can tell you right now, we go all over the world. Connie and I have got Nikken consultants in various countries. And when we travel, we have our water bottle with us. We have all our nutrition with us. We have our sleep blanket with us. I mean, we take our FlexPlex, our MagFlex. I mean, we're equipped. We're Nikken equipped. And it's just the way it is. And it's a miracle. I can tell you right now, the water bottle, when you travel, is got to be the number one miracle that Nikken is designed, because I can go anywhere now and drink water as long as it's municipality or bottled. I can drink water that's safe, clean, and healthy for me. And boy, on a trip, especially when you fly, you're hydrating right. It's just a miracle. And the other things that we take with us is green signs. Oh my gosh, green signs has got to be a miracle in a can. As I say. Need I say more?
So hard to put a price tag on.
Oh, it's my life. Look, I've lived 9 years past when they told me there was no more they could do for me. Think about that. 9 years. That's better than 5 years in 1 day, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, yes.
But I can tell you right now, I can do things I wasn't doing in my 40s. I was taking medicines in my 40s. I don't take any medicines anymore. Well, I do. I take green signs, and I take black, fair, and gold. I mean, those are medicines, aren't they?
Right.
Medicines for the body.
You're all natural
Right.
medicines.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Well, hey, as we wrap this up, Ron and Maria, one last thing, probably from both of you, but with you first, Ron. So what is your recommendation to all Nikken consultants and Nikken customers out there? And this is future customers. What's your recommendation to everybody?
Well, first, get involved. Not everybody wants to do it as a business. That's true. But get involved, whether it's the Nikken products as a business or the Nikken products as taken for your health. I once heard the doctor talking on nutrition, and he said the man told him that he couldn't afford to do the Nikken. And he turned to him and he said, "Tell me something. Have you got like $50 a month you could spend?" He says, "Yes." "Then buy our nutritionals, buy our vitamins. Just do something, but don't do anything. Buy that. That's a start." He said, "I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to take it, and a couple of weeks later, you're going to call me up and say, 'Well, what else have you got?' Because you're going to notice a difference." And you can't let something like this go by. You just can't let it go by. It's just too important in your life and in your family's lives. And you've got to you drink lots of water. Don't be lazy. Read the labels. Watch what you eat. Exercise. Walk on the earth. Walk in the dirt. Walk on the beach. Get that earth energy through you. Get some sun. It's good for you. And it's just, as they say, it's walk the walk and talk the talk, sort of that kind of a. So that's pretty much.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Maria, do you have anything you want to add to that? Nikken consultants, plan of action, call to action?
Well, one of the things that's been so fabulous for me, and Ron, you touched on this earlier, that there is so much to learn. And as you begin a Nikken wellness, once you invest in a Nikken wellness home and you start transforming your home, your journey just begins. And that's what I've loved, is my whole family now is on board. And my husband, I've always been a little more passionate about health and wellness than my husband has, but he's very involved in it now. I mean, he's talking to people about the water, and I think that's just it. Just take a step, and whatever you can do, do it. And that's what when I talk to people and I show them, about the vital elements, Rick, that you mentioned on, air, sleep, water, nutrition, light, and relief from chronic discomfort. And figure out what's most vital for you right now. What water are you drinking? What kind of air are you breathing? How's your sleep? How's your nutrition? What is, if any of those are really out of balance, you're heading on the side of disease. So so that's what I like to tell people is, look at your own life and figure out which one of those you right now is probably the most out of balance, and make that a priority to change first, and then start learning. There's so much out there to learn, and that's what I just love so much. I feel like being in this business, I'm getting my master's degree in health and wellness because I just love it, and I love learning about it, and sharing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The one comment I'd have to say here, a call to action, is for all distributors and people in it as a business, or if you're just in wholesale of products, or if you're a future customer, start asking yourself some quality questions. How long can you live without it? And then what is the vibration of life with it or without it? And what do you need to do to activate and get involved, whether if it's air, water, sleep, nutrition, or as a business, or just to improve your chronic disease that you might have. So, we need to understand our body's requirements. We need to reduce our body burden of toxic chemicals in our house and places. Sometimes you just can't. So we got to be strong from the inside, and we need to find a simple way to do it. And Nikken's done that. The problem is most people don't do it. Behavior change is very difficult. And I've studied behavior change now for the past 6 years. Change your lifestyle, you'll improve your health. But it takes us as a community of practitioners, and as America, the strong. We've got to improve our health and our wellness, and it involves change. So there are ways to provide our bodies with what is needed for a healthy body, reduce our burden of contaminants, and there's an easy way to do it. We've talked about that. And Ron, thank you so much, sir. You talked about the wellness home and how that has changed your life, and that's the key. That's the foundation of Nikken for all consultants, is to figure out, how everybody gets into a wellness home to jumpstart their new life, whether if it's responding to a chronic illness or preventing it, or simply just trying to go to the next level and be vibrant in life. And the wellness home consists of a whole lot, and we're not going to go into a lot of detail now. The recommendation is that you reach out to your local Nikken consultant that's recommended you to this video here today, and learn about the air, the water, the nutrition, the natural lighting, the quality sleep, and then the advanced magnetics that only Nikken has, and that Nikken owns the patents on. And here's a quote: Nikken is a complete wellness company that through research and development produces and distributes products that touch upon each of the vital areas of healthy living: restful sleep, clean air, clean water, balanced nutrition, and natural light. And Nikken is the only total wellness company in the world. And that quote came from Healthy Child, Healthy World, which is a nonprofit organization that works with Nikken, trying to make it a better world for our children. And so with that, we have choices in life. There's many doors in front of us. And with Nikken and our wellness, usually when you open one, many more big doors start to open. And you'll see that. Ron's been doing that for 9 years. Maria's been doing that. Maria's whole family's been doing that for years. And so I just challenge everybody as consultants and future customers and clients, start opening your doors. Start asking those quality questions. Start living a life in balance. And those 5 pillars of mind, body, family, society, and finances. And keep that in balance and move forward, and let's change America one person at a time. So for all of you out there that are sick, that need some assistance, we're coming. Nikken's coming. We're here. Nikken 2.0 is on fire. And in 12 months from now, you're going to see a different world. America will be different. And as consultants, we all have a significant job to do. And Ron DeMicchio, sir, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on this call. And
thank you, Ron.
the knowledge that you've shared with us, you can't get anywhere else in this world. So, if I had $1 million check, I would give it to you right now. It's that valuable. And the purpose of this call is to share that knowledge out across the networks and across the United States so we can all get better. And my hat's off to you, sir. And I hope we can, do this again with you here in the future. And I hope this information is very valuable to your family of Nikken people as well.
Well, I'm glad I could have been some help, and I hope that Nikken keeps doing what it's doing for the next 100 years. I don't know if I'll live that long, but a lot of the people that I talk to every day, a lot of them are going to live for many, many years after I'm gone, and that's one of the most wonderful things is knowing that I did something on the earth that touched people, that touched them after I was still gone, and what more could you ask for?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ron.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rick.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for the call, and all the Nikken 2.0 people out there. America needs you. Let's get after it. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.